The Apple Watch Ultra 2 versus the Series 10 is a much more complicated decision than I initially thought when it came to upgrading my Apple Watch this year. So I was coming from an Apple Watch Ultra, and it really wasn't that old. But when I upgraded, I thought Apple didn't upgrade the Ultra 2, I'm just going to go Series 10, and that's going to be the end of the conversation. But what no one really seems to talk about with the Series 10 being the largest Apple Watch ever is actually that you're not gaining any benefits to it being the largest Apple Watch ever. So the Apple Watch Ultra has much more benefits for it than the Series 10 did. So I took the Series 10 out of the box, put it on my wrist, and didn't even boot it up because I kind of knew what I was going to get myself into by downgrading from an Ultra to a Series 10. But let's talk about everything. Now, a big one for me is battery life. So the Apple Watch Ultra, I was charging, every other day, sometimes every day, depending on what I was doing, but I can get away with 36 hours of battery life. Well, the Apple Watch Series 10, no matter what size you get, has 18 hours of battery life, which is half of the Apple Watch Ultra. So if you're like me, who has had that 36-hour battery life, it was kind of hard to justify and basically get into this whole new old routine, I guess you could say, of having to charge my Apple Watch every day and making sure that my life could now revolve around my Apple Watch instead of my Apple Watch revolving around my life. Because with the Ultra, I don't even think about it. I can go do absolutely anything and not have to worry about it. Where with the Series 10, I'm more concerned about the watch. It is bigger, so I was kind of making sure I didn't chip the screen, I don't hit it on anything, and all of this stuff. And also, it would be dead when I would wake up at 5 and go to put it on the charger at 10, which would mean I couldn't use sleep tracking at this point. The battery life on the Series 10 kind of can't even get me through a day. I feel that why am I going to want to downgrade to a worse watch in a way? Now, the Apple Watch Ultra also has exclusive watch faces. It has the Wayfinder and the Modular Ultra. I personally have been using the Modular Ultra since it was announced, and I absolutely love the face. With watchOS 11, we also got the ability to add training load around it, which I think is a very good option for the bezel. If you kind of want to see, your vitals as well as your training load after the 30 days of all of this data, you'll have them populated on the sides, and it'll allow you to essentially keep in check with your body, which I think is very nice. But the largest Apple Watch ever of the Series 10 doesn't have this watch face and doesn't have any watch face that really takes advantage of this bigger display that it has now So I kind of found this confusing because it's the biggest Apple Watch ever. You have a better Apple Watch that's getting better watch faces. In my opinion, I thought the watch faces were going to possibly trickle down, especially with this being the largest Apple Watch ever, but it did not. So to get a little technical here and talk about the tech specs of the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and the Series 10, the display on the Ultra 2 is 1185 square millimeters, which essentially means that you have 1,185 millimeters of viewable display to work with, whereas the Series 10 has 1,220 square millimeter. So the Series 10 definitely does have a little bit more, although you really don't notice this, I feel, because of the fact that with watchOS 11, Apple kind of gave this treatment to the Ultra 2 as every area that had an extra line of text is also reflected on the Ultra 2. So you're really not getting a benefit by going to the 46 millimeter. Now, the one benefit of the Series 10 that I really did like right away was how thin it was when compared to the Ultra and even the Series 8 I use. And that's something I notice all the time when going from my Ultra 2 to my Series 8 that I use for sleep tracking, because I'll take off my Ultra and I'll realize that the regular Apple Watches are so much thinner. So if that kind of is a deal breaker to you, personally, I've gotten used to it, although I do need to flip the digital crown on this watch to be on the other side, just so it's out of the way, which is something I recommend doing kind of for all the Apple Watches, because you don't have those accidental presses when your hand is up. But something that was also not even mentioned and kind of absent from the keynote is if you already have an Apple Watch Ultra, or even an Ultra 2, that has blood oxygen tracking, in the United States, by switching to the Series 10, you lose out on that blood oxygen tracking until Apple resolves this patent dispute they have going with a company called Masimo, who is claiming that Apple stole the technology. And we really have not had an update on that since the case started back in January of 2024 when Apple had to stop selling Apple Watches with blood oxygen tracking. The feature is still there and it can be turned on later, but if you buy a new Ultra 2 or Series 10, it just tells you the blood oxygen tracking is disabled. It may be turned on depending on the result of this lawsuit, but Apple is kind of just leaving new users who are upgrading, or even if you're upgrading, just high and dry, as this feature is now completely missing. But overall, these three kind of key features, in my opinion, that are missing are the battery life, the watch faces, and the blood oxygen. Now, this isn't a deal breaker, the blood oxygen, but if you have it, it's kind of nice to have the feature when you're upgrading, but now you're not. But let me know what your thoughts, and would you go Series 10 or Ultra 2 this year? Because it's definitely very interesting. And the Ultra 2 did get a brand new black color, which I am so happy about. I absolutely love the color. So yes, I did upgrade to the black Ultra 2. And while you're down there, if you want to hit like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that as well. But I want you to remember that today's a good day to make a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.